By far and away, the most common question we get asked about the LSAT is how long does it actually take to study? Before you can sit down and start to actually tackle your prep, it's essential to have a well thought out study plan as well as to understand what exactly you're signing yourself up for when you set out to begin this process. Unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, but there is a simple way to look at it that should help you create a timeline that you can stick to. Because everybody starts out at a different skill level and has a different schedule, you should never ever think of this process purely in terms of a specific number of months. Because the LSAT is entirely about developing your skills, there's no way to put a set number of months that it's going to take to accomplish that goal. You might be familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's famous rule that the key to achieving true expertise in any skill is simply a matter of properly practicing for at least 10,000 hours. Thankfully, the LSAT doesn't take nearly that long to master, but the fundamental principle still applies. The key factor that will determine your LSAT progress is the number of dedicated quality practice hours that you put in. Everybody is a little different here, but as I alluded to in the first video, the magic number that most people need to reach their individual potential tends to be around 250 to 300 total study hours. While that might seem like a lot at first, it's actually quite manageable if you break it down. If you had 4 months to study, you would need to put in roughly 20 hours per week to meet that goal. If you space that out over 6 months, you'd be looking more in the range of 15 hours per week, and if you were to spread it out further over 8 months to a year, you could reach 250 hours with as little as 5 to 10 hours per week. As you can see, the longer your timeline is, the less weekly studying you'll have to do. That means that the most important way to make sure that you give yourself enough time is to plan ahead and make sure you can meet those weekly goals. The best way to start is to figure out when you want to actually take the test and then work backwards from there to devise a timeline that gets you ready in time. Remember also that life doesn't stop just because you're studying for the LSAT, so make sure that you always leave enough room and flexibility that you can make adjustments when necessary. From our experience, most people don't end up meeting their original timelines, so you should plan to start as early as possible and leave yourself more time than you think you need to study. Now, even if the ideal study timeline isn't possible for you, every additional hour you spend drilling and preparing is always going to be worth it. 250 to 300 hours is a benchmark to shoot for, but even if you can only spare 50, if you can spend those hours well, you can bring your score up by multiple points, which can make a massive difference in your admissions and scholarship outcomes.